All right, I am ready to nature journal in the Grand Canyon. Got my waterproof gear. I can fit my whole body inside of a dry bag in case I get washed away in the rapids. Got waterproof paper, waterproof glasses, waterproof headlamp, waterproof hat that I can hold my nature journaling supplies in. Whew. Got this special Write in the Rain journal and all these dry bags. Jeez, don't try this at home. It's actually really dangerous to put yourself inside of a dry bag. So right now, I'm going to share with you some of the stuff that I'm taking on my nature journaling trip in the Grand Canyon. As you can see, I have loads of dry bags here that I'm packing all my gear. And even though you might not be going to the Grand Canyon, some of this might be interesting for you. So, forgot to put on my wool pants, but I'm going to show you some of the gear that I'm taking, how it applies to you, how I'm going to nature journal down there, and how I'm going to share the pages that I fill with you. So let me get out of this dry bag here. All right, and I'm going to move the camera so you can see a little bit better, and then I'm going to share a bunch of pre-trip stuff. And you can think of some questions that you have if you have any questions, because I'm going to be gone for 21 days. I'm not going to be connected to the internet, no Instagram, no YouTube, no Facebook. I'm going to miss the rest of the Wild Wonder Conference. But right now I'm going to show you some of the stuff I'm taking, how it applies to your nature journaling, and how excited I am about nature journaling in the Grand Canyon. A lot of times, nature journaling in extreme situations is a good way to practice and to learn how to nature journal in more relaxed situations. So first, right now, I'm going to go through a little bit of my gear and share that with you. So first thing I want to talk about is where to go. I've been using these Write in the Rain journals and testing them out in wet situations. So I've been nature journaling in ponds, nature journaling in the ocean, sitting in the water and nature journaling. And this paper is not the greatest for art, but it is very water resistant. So if you live in a very wet place, or you want to go out and nature journal on a whale watching trip or something, I highly recommend looking up this company. And I'm bringing multiple copies of these things. That's another thing I'm going to talk about today is redundancy. I'm bringing multiple copies of things because in a situation where you might lose something, it's good to have extra. This jacket right here, I'll talk about that a little bit. But I'm bringing two nature journaling kits so that if I lose one in the rapids, I'll still have another one. This jacket right here, I got it used. Patagonia is an amazing company. Patagonia sells used stuff on their website at Wornwear. And so I found this. It's been lightly used, but it has these pockets in the front that will fit the waterproof journal. That way, when I'm rowing down the rapids, or maybe hopefully someone else is rowing, then I can just be like sneakily pull this out and maybe do some nature journaling while other people are rowing. So that's one cool thing is these pockets help with the organization. So I would recommend something like that if you're going to try nature journaling in wet situations. Also, another thing that I'm going to be trying out are these waterproof and sun-resistant shirts. So I just read recently, I think it was that 1 in 3 Americans will get skin cancer in their lifetime. So sun protection is really important. These shirts, this one's from Colombia. They're the most well-known for these kind of sun shirts, but they make them. A lot of other companies make them. So just thinking about sun protection is really, really important. If you're a nature journaler, you spend a lot of time outside. And so that's something that I'm going to be using on this trip. A lot of them also have pockets in the front where you can put a small journal. That's why I think it's really good to have multiple sizes of journals. You probably know me most for my 9x12 journals that I use all the time, but these do not fit in this pocket. No matter how hard you try, they just don't fit. So having some other sizes is really beneficial, especially on like an expedition or a trip. So even a size like this, anything that helps you nature journal more. And if this fits in your front pocket and you're in like a vehicle or something and you can just pull it out and do a quick sketch, that's better than nothing. So I've gotten some sketches, and this is waterproof paper. So I was nature journaling in a pond, and those are things I would not have been able to do with my larger size journal, and they fits right in my pocket. So that's one cool thing about these shirts. And wool shirts also work really well. I'm gonna have to take a lot of those because it's gonna be cold later in my trip. We're leaving on October 13th. We're putting into the river at Lee's Ferry at the very top, and we're getting out on the 3rd of November. So by that time, it's going to be getting pretty cold. These are some cheap sunglasses, and I talk about these in another nature journaling video because for the longest time, I've been debating the benefits, the pros and cons of nature journaling with sunglasses. As you've probably experienced when you're nature journaling outside, this paper can get really bright, and you can even see how the camera struggles to adjust with that. And you might not notice that at first with your eyes because our eyes are such an amazing organ that they adapt really quickly. But after an hour of painting, your eye strain is going to be real, and so you're probably going to have a headache. So I recommend experimenting with sunglasses. At first, it might be weird, and you might notice like the color looks different, but I highly recommend experimenting with sunglasses because as a nature journaler, as an artist, your eyes are one of your most valuable resources. So protecting them is really important. These ones are on a strap, and this is a strap for floating in the water. That way they don't get lost in the rapids. And this was pretty cheap, but there's other ways to connect your sunglasses so that you can easily put them down. And the reason I recommend that is when you're using binoculars and sunglasses at the same time, it's often easier to take your sunglasses off and bring the binoculars up. So I have a video that's going to talk about that more because I really think more nature journalers should be experimenting with sunglasses to help protect our eyes. And what I've noticed is I get tired less quickly, and I don't get as many headaches while I'm nature journaling. I'm also experimenting with this other type of sunglasses. My girlfriend does not like these, but these ones have a built-in strap instead of whatever those things are called, arms. And that means they break less easily. Like you can sit on them. They pack down really nicely. And so I've been using these nature journaling. They're a little bit harder to adjust and all of that, but I'm experimenting with these. And like I said, I think more nature journalers need to use sunglasses. You probably, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I love these things. These are called buffs. This company is based in Spain. These things are amazing. You can cover your head with them, keep your hair clean and nice, look like Little Red Riding Hood or whatever. You can go ninja mode. Now that COVID's around, you can use them for that, even though they actually are not good for COVID. So don't use them for that. But if you want to look like a ninja or keep your face warm, you can use them for that. This one is 100% merino wool. So this is a great thing. I think nature journalers need to have good products for use in nature. This 100% merino wool, it keeps your neck warm, but it's also good for protecting your neck from the sun. They come in other versions. So this one is a synthetic one that I'm going to take on my Colorado River trip. I'm going to take both, but this is good for hotter weather. You can wet this and put it on. You could probably wipe your water brush on here if you really needed to change your watercolors really quickly. So those are a couple of the clothing type things. And remember, when you're in nature and you're nature journaling, the more comfortable you are with your clothing and your gear, the better you're going to nature journal. And you don't want to test this stuff out when you're on a trip. So I've been experimenting with all of this before my Grand Canyon trip, because when I'm down here in these rapids, I don't want to be experimenting with new gear. That's a 25-foot drop on that Unkar Creek rapid. I don't want to be, figuring out that this nature journal is not waterproof while I'm in that situation. So that's why I'm testing this all out in advance. I'm going to show you some more of the stuff that I'm testing out and some of the specific nature journaling materials that I'm testing out as well. So I'm going to show you some of these other dry bags that I have. This is going to be like one of those shows where you get to see what's behind door number 1. So I've got all of these dry bags here. You should see the packing list that my trip leader sent. So these dry bags have a special seal on them that keeps things dry. Duh. And right here I've got a whole bunch of them, and I'm going to go through them right now with you and open them up one by one. And let's start with this one right here. Actually, no, let's start with this red one. So what's in here? I don't even remember what's in here. Oh, yes. Okay, so towels are super important. I'm even going to have one small towel inside of my nature journal kit. That way I can wipe water off of my waterproof paper. Got my wool blanket here. But mostly this bag is full of, oh yes, this chair. This right here, you've probably seen in one of my recent nature journaling videos, and I'm going to do a full review of it later. This one is my girlfriend's, so it hasn't barely been used and still has the tag on it. But I got mine like 4 months before this Grand Canyon trip, and every time I go nature journaling, pretty much, I've been using it. This is the Joey Travel Chair. Travel Chair is the company, and this thing is amazing. It is so comfortable and has helped my nature journaling a lot. I've used it in sand, mud. I've used it on rocks in the Sierra Nevada. Super great. I recommend all nature journalers get one of these things, and it just makes it so much more comfy. And this one's actually stable. If you've ever sat on one of those other ones where you fell down or it sank into the ground, you had like a sinking feeling, then you know what I'm talking about. This one does not do that because it has these extra fat feet. These feet are stabilized so that when you sit down in it, you're not going to have any problems at all. And it's really easy to set up. I've been taking it with me. You know that I have the really basic chair. Have you seen my minimalist nature journaling chair? It goes inside of my kit. Where is it? Can't find it right now, but I have another nature journaling chair that's super tiny, and it actually fits in the back pocket of my nature journal bag. But that one, it sinks into the ground, and it doesn't work for everybody. It's not that comfortable, and it doesn't have a backrest. But look at this. This chair right here is so good. So good for nature journaling. I take it to the beach. I take it everywhere. And this is something that I got specifically for the Grand Canyon, but I've already been using it a ton and really putting it to the test in all kinds of conditions. This one's brand new because my girlfriend hasn't taken hers out of the package yet, but mine has been thoroughly tested. And this thing is super nice. It's really comfy. It doesn't sink into the ground, and it's pretty good even if you have wider hips. So this is so good for nature journaling because you can just sit back and have your nature journaling supplies in your lap and just draw right here. So you might have noticed that these pants that I'm taking, they're the kind where they're really cool because you can take these things off. But the problem is sometimes that zipper doesn't work. Like on this one, oh God, the zipper is stuck. But these kind of technical pants, they're good for the outdoors. They're good for the Grand Canyon. So that's why I'm taking them. All right, well, that was one bag. That had lots of cool stuff in it. I highly recommend that chair, like I said. Now let's look in the next bag, and then I'm going to get into my specific nature journaling supplies. Let's see what we got in this bag here. What's in the orange bag? Luckily, my friend is letting me borrow a bunch of his dry bags, so I didn't have to buy all this equipment. So you probably know from traveling that you have to be really focused on like what you bring and what you don't bring, and only focus on the essential. It's the same when you're going down the Grand Canyon. So certain food is more convenient than others and is more packable. So keep that in mind. Like there's certain things, you know, that are essential and really worth their weight. I have the rest of this bag is basically full of dried fruit, so I don't get constipated while I'm down there. So I've been using my dehydrator and drying pineapples. These are blood peaches. from my friend's farm, all kinds of really good dried fruit. So this whole bag is basically full of dried fruit. And don't forget, yeah, that's right, don't forget the chocolate. This is the super blackout. It's really, really, really dark. And of course, you gotta have the, let's see, dried pears. So a whole bunch more dried fruit. These are a very special, rare type of pear that I dehydrated. I'm gonna be sharing these. I'm not gonna eat all these, even though 21 days could probably eat a lot of dried fruit. I got dried mango, dried peaches from my tree, dried pineapple and mango and more peaches. What else? And a bottle of tequila. This is for cleaning my water brush, actually. No, just kidding. I'm not taking this because there's actually going to be a bartender on our rafting trip down the Grand Canyon. So that bag was basically full of dried fruit and stuff like that. All right, let's see what's in the next bag. This is a huge bag. I think this is going to fit most of the rest of our gear, but one of the really important things to take on a trip to the Grand Canyon, and I just learned this, is I would not have guessed this, but probably the most important thing, according to my trip leader, is lotion. So this whole bag right here is full of lotion and moisturizer and chapstick and stuff like that, because that's the most important thing to bring on your trip. Now, this is sort of difficult if you're a nature journaler. You might have experienced this with sunscreen, but if you have sunscreen or lotion on your hands and then you do some nature journaling, guess what happens? Well, lotions and sunscreens often have lipids or fats, which are all water-resistant hydrophobic molecules. And if that's on your hand, like this, I think this is called the blade of your hand, like the part you like karate chop with, this part right here. If that has lipids on it and you go like this while you're drawing, later when you come in to do your watercolor, it'll be water resistant and you'll get these weird spots. Like maybe you've noticed these weird spots before, like where the paint doesn't completely cover. That could be from that. So you have to be careful with the lotion on your hands. But my trip leader for this trip said that lotion's the most important thing. So I'm going to listen to him and sacrifice my nature journal page's quality a little bit if it means better protection for my hands. So let's see here. I got all kinds of different lotions and salves and soaps. Also carabiners. This way I can attach things like to my ear or whatever so I don't lose anything. And this is something that I wanted to share for all nature journalers. Like I said, sun protection is really important. And actually, John Muir Laws is the one that I noticed who's always talking about this. But sunscreen is really important, or covering yourself, wearing a hat. All of those things are really important. Like I said earlier, the statistic I read said that 1 in 3 Americans will get skin cancer in their lifetime. So figuring out an easy way to use sunscreen that's not going to affect your watercolor paper is really important. So I found this right here, and it's sort of in this stick, like a deodorant stick, and it comes out, and this is one of those ones that comes out like really white. But the cool thing is you don't need to get it on your hands to apply it. So I've been using this on my recent nature journaling trips to the beach, and for the Grand Canyon, I really, really want to make sure I don't get sunburnt. And you can just apply it like that, and see, I got my nose like super well covered, and didn't get any on my hands, so I can just go straight to nature journaling and not worry about that. So that's the majority of those things. Now I'm going to talk specifically about some of my nature journaling equipment, and I'll put the computer back up here as I talk about these other things, because I'm going to show you some of the tricks that I'm using for this trip. And even though I'm doing somewhat extreme nature journaling, these things apply to other forms of nature journaling. That's what I like about nature journaling in extreme situations, is that it gives me a lot of clues about nature journaling in other situations. So I recently, actually, it was a couple months ago, I interviewed Kate Rudder. And Kate Rudder had been nature journaling her avocado seed every day. And as the avocado seed sprouted and grew, she nature journaled it every day for 100 days. And that was super cool. And a lot of people think, oh, that's such a boring object. But if you're doing Wild Wonder right now, you know that John Muir Law said, that try to nature journal and find the wonder in the ordinary. And so one key to finding the wonder in the ordinary is consistency. So what Kate Rudder taught me is that she created constraints, creative constraints. And those creative constraints meant that from day to day, as her avocado pit grew, she could easily compare them from one day to the other. So I started thinking about how can I apply this to my Grand Canyon trip, because I want to try to have pages that are consistent from one page to the other instead of just like every page being totally different. One, for visual reasons. It looks cooler and is easier to look at pages when they've been done consistently with creative constraints. But even more importantly is that you don't have to think about it. So when you're down here in the rapids in the Grand Canyon and you're on a trip and you're exhausted and you whip out your nature journal, if you have creative constraints and you know, this is how I do my metadata, this is how I do my metadata every single time, and then right after that, I'm going to do a landscape beto, and you know exactly what size your landscape beto is going to be, those creative constraints are liberating. So what a lot of people don't realize is that constraints and restrictions are often the most liberating thing for artists and nature journalers. So what I'm trying to do is figure out like 5 different types of entries. So what are the 5 types of entries that I can use in my nature journal on a repeating basis? And like, how am I going to do my metadata? What is my landscape beto going to look like? Am I going to do a landscape beto every time I'm in camp? Things like that. So that's one thing I'm working on, and I think that applies to everybody's nature journaling. The other thing I'm working on is how to use maps. There's all of these great topographic maps, and I've been experimenting with ways to photocopy them and color them in and see what that would look like if I attach that into my nature journal. And this is sort of like more of a junk journal type technique, or like a scrapbooking technique where you take pieces of paper and attach them into your journal. I think that's something really powerful. If you're at Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference right now, you've probably seen some of Tony Foster's work, and he does really cool stuff where he takes found objects and puts them into his painting and attaches them like that. So that's one of the techniques that I'm planning on using. I'm also planning on using these maps to show like the distances that we've covered. This is just a printed version of a map with a watercolor wash on top. And hey, little trick here, check this out. This right here, look how good this watercolor wash came out. And you know what? This is printer paper. But guess what? This is resume paper. So you can get resume paper that works in your printer, and it's 100% cotton. And even though I think it's only like 80 GSM, it's not very heavy, but because it's 100% cotton, it hardly warped or anything, and it actually held this wash. This is a pretty wet wash that I did on here, and look how good it came out. So if you want to just print maps like right off of the printer onto resume paper and then do watercolor on them, this is a great little trick to try. The other technique that you can do is print it out onto regular printer paper, cover the back with graphite, then take that page, tape it into your journal like that. And because the graphite's on the back, you can go over the lines, and those lines will be transferred onto your paper, and then you can paint the map on your paper. So that is another technique for copying. Okay, let me show you a couple more of my pages that I've been working on, and I'm going to show you my whole setup that I've created for nature journaling in the Grand Canyon to prevent any disasters. And I'm going to drink some water. I'm getting hot in this wool shirt. All right, so I've basically made it so that I have 2 nature journaling kits in case I lose one. I've got this one, which is in a waterproof dry bag. I tried to find a dry bag that was the closest to my nature journaling bag. So I've got that one. and I've got a complete copy of all of my nature journaling supplies, every single pen and pencil in the same organization in this kit and in my other kit. I got this idea originally from John Muir Laws. He says he has a nature journaling bag ready to go at the door, and then he has nature journaling supplies in his studio, and they're the exact same supplies. So like 2 watercolor palettes. I know that's like a big investment for a lot of you, is having duplicate supplies, but if you have the exact same supplies, it's way easier when you nature journal. And if you don't have to get your stuff ready every time you go out the door, then that's really beneficial. Oh, I just noticed there's a ton of comments here that I haven't been paying attention to. So hi, everybody who's watching. Hi, Christine Elder, Anita Nature Sketches. There's a bunch of people on Facebook. I'm not sure who they are because I can't always see the names don't show up from Facebook. But thanks everybody for joining in. Let me know if you have any questions. But I'm gonna keep going. So this bag right here is my waterproof one. So that's one. And then where's my other one? Here's my other one. So as you know, I've done lots of reviews on this bag, and I've tried many other bags and compared them to this one, but I haven't found anything quite like this. Let me put the camera back a little bit more. So this right here is my Patagonia bag. This bag is no longer in stock. They don't make these anymore. And the new one, I tried it out and I did not like it. So this bag right here, first of all, as you know, this type of single strap is essential for nature journaling. A backpacks are not good because with this, you can just get to your supplies super easily. And another key tip, you should be able to do everything with one hand. When you're nature journaling, you should be able to use your binoculars with one hand. You should be able to put your sketchbook in and out of your bag with one hand. And what that means is that you can have another hand on your nature journal, or you can be in a position to be drawing, and those other things you can be manipulating with one hand. If you need 2 hands, or even worse, if you need to set something on the ground to open it up or operate it, that's not good for nature journaling. And those little friction points are going to be the things that make the difference between nature journaling and not nature journaling. So this is my one bag. You've probably already seen my video where I review everything that's in it. I have my normal sketchbook in here. Of course, I have my watercolor palette from John Muir Laws with all of the colors that you've seen me use before. I love this watercolor palette. I just put extra paper in here for testing. I've got that. My main drawing tool right now is this Pilot Fudayaku pen. It has gray on one side that I use for writing and black on the other side that I use for drawing. That is my main drawing tool. So I've got one of those. I've got this Tombow brush pen, and this Tombow brush pen is what I use for my under drawings. And this is, I use sort of like the way a lot of people use the non-photo blue pencil, a really cool one to have. Of course, I've got my water brush. I use the size large, just like Jack, and I have 2 of them in each nature journal. I put tape on this one because this one's brand new, and when they're brand new, you probably already know this, but when they're brand new, they leak water like way more. Ugh. That was not clean water for some reason. Had a weird taste. Anyways, I have one of each. I have an old one and a new one in each kit because when you need to do a really big wet wash, it's good to have this brand new one because it puts out so much water. But for most of the time, I don't want that much water coming out of my water brush. And I think this is a problem that happens to a lot of beginners is the first time they try one of these Pentel Aquawash water brushes, they end up having so much water coming out that they can't control it. So I've got 2 larges. The other super important thing on this trip, at least, and that I usually have in my kit is I have 2 sources of white. Because when you're nature journaling, you can't add highlights. You can't put lighter values on top of darker values with your watercolor. You can with oil painting or acrylics, but I'm not taking oil painting and acrylics down the Grand Canyon, but I'm taking 2 of these. So I've got, for my big whites, I've got the Uni Posca paint pen, And this one right here is one of the ones you have to shake up, you know. And then I've got my Uniball Signo for the finer lines. And these are the ones, I've just made a video about this, but these are the ones, like if you're showing waves or water or anything like that, this is what you use to put white down on top of other colors. Great for water. That's why I'm taking it to the Grand Canyon. It's also good for eyes on animals. Like if you want to draw the little reflection on the eyeball, this is the perfect thing. So I've got my fine one and my big one. Let's see what else I have in here. I have like, essential. If you don't have these are the cheapest nature journaling thing you can buy that will have the biggest impact on your nature journaling. These clips right here are so amazing. When you're out in nature and it's windy, even when it's not windy, you put these clips on and it holds your page in place. You put that clip on right there. I think they're called bulldog clips. And it keeps your paper from moving around. It keeps it from blowing in the wind. I often put one on both corners. But these things are like, I'm totally dependent on these things now. I love them. You can still close your book. You could even like put your book back into your bag like this and still be able to open it to that page. Boom, there I go. And these pages are not flopping around all crazy. These clips are essential. So I've got those. Keep your paper organized. Got those. Then the other thing I've got, this one of the things I like about this kit, this bag, is it has a water bottle pocket right here. That's really convenient, and it's on the outside. You need to have your water bottle on the outside. You have to stay hydrated while you're nature journaling. Then there's an external pocket here, and this is where I'm going to put my waterproof sketchbook. And I'm going to keep multiples of these. So I've got this new one. It's a slightly bigger size than the one you saw me testing before. I can't even find the one where I tested before because I've got stuff all over the place. But this size right here from Right in the Rain is a little bit bigger. And check this out. This is like for sketchers because the inside has nothing on it. So that means like there's no lines or any of that stuff. So for sketchers, sometimes the lines are annoying. But check this out. This one has no lines. I've got two of these. Also, little pro tip, have you ever wondered why the corners are rounded on some books? That makes it easier to go in and out of pockets. So it goes in and out and doesn't catch because of those corners. It doesn't catch. And in this bag, I have, this is supposedly the pen that the astronauts use. I don't know if that's true or if that's just a marketing thing. But if I were in space and NASA built this for me, I would be really disappointed because to tell you the truth, I bought this at REI, okay? And to tell you the truth, for the cost and for something that is sent to space, it's not that great. And the ink is not that great either. It says it can write upside down in zero gravity at like negative, like I think like negative 100 degrees Celsius and like all these crazy temperatures. It's supposed to be able to write underwater, all those things. But what I found, first thing I found is, look at this. You know how I feel about pens that the cap needs to clip on the back. Well, this one, it barely stays on there and it falls off, it wiggles like this and it falls off so easily that if I bumped it, it could fall off and I lose that cap. This pen without a cap is almost useless or maybe even worse than useless. So this pen right here is not that great, but it's what I have. And then I bought a Right in the Rain one for my other kit. So each, that's this pack. Each pack has a redundant nature journaling kit. This waterproof one right here is about the same size. And I just got it so that it will have a strap that carries just like my nature journal bag. Very similar size, as you can see. Similar sizes, right? This one is completely waterproof. This was kind of like my big splurge item. And then inside what I've done, and I must thank Lori Line, one of my fans, for letting me know about this. But I found, she found exact same type, well, it's a little bit different, same type of nature journaling bag as my other one. And these are no longer being made by Patagonia. But what I'm doing is I'm basically using this bag as an internal organizer inside of my waterproof bag. That way I can leave it open on the inside and just reach in and grab stuff. But if I need to, and we go for like a day hike, I could just extract this right out of my waterproof bag, put it on, and I'm ready to go. And in here, I have a completely redundant kit, nature journaling kit. I have another one of my sketchbooks, and this is my basic sketchbook that I always use to have a complete backup in case anything gets lost and I don't have to think about it. Luckily, I have this old palette. This is my old watercolor palette from John Muir Laws. It's a little bit broken, you know, and I got hooked up with a new one. So I'm taking this as my extra. Save these broccoli. These are the rubber bands that come with broccoli. You got to save these. You can do finger workouts with them. Really useful. And they're good for holding your watercolor palette closed and a bunch of other nature things, nature and art things. So I got this in here, and then I've got basically redundant everything else that I use. I got my Tombow pen. I've got my 2 water brushes, one with tape. That's the new one that drips like crazy. That's just way too much water for a water brush. I got the old one, doesn't drip as crazy. Of course, I got 2 of those. I've got my Tombow pen, like I said. And this one, I am using the same pens and everything, same ink. But let me show you one difference. I'm using the Presto Jumbo correction pen and the Uniball Signo. So this is basically equivalent to that Posca marker that I used in the other one. You shake it up, it comes out with a lot of white. You can use it for drawing rapids or waves or highlights or anything like that. And then I've got this one. So I've got completely redundant sets there. Now, how does this apply to you? If you're not going nature journaling in the Grand Canyon, this applies to you, because what you could do is you could have redundant kits at home. You can have one kit in your studio where you do your homework and nature journaling at home, have all the same tools, and then one at the door or one in the car. And that way, you never have to have that friction at the beginning of a nature journaling session where you struggle with finding your stuff, deciding what stuff you're going to use. If you have too many art supplies and you have to decide which watercolor you're going to use every time you nature journal, that's a huge problem. That's a huge amount of resistance that's going to prevent you from nature journaling more. So having 2 kits, one ready to go outside and one for nature journaling inside, is one great way to solve that. Let's see, I've got a couple backup items of other things, and I've got these small waterproof journals just to carry with me at all time. And I think that's pretty much it. So I see Allison was on here wishing me a happy trip. Thank you so much, Allison. Good to see you. Thanks, Nature Sketches. It is a cool bag. I think you might be talking about the waterproof one. Let's see what Ivea said. So Ivea told a joke on YouTube, and she said that the US spent millions of dollars designing a pen that works in outer space. Russia used pencils. I think that's really funny. And the truth is that pencils work with all of these Right in the Rain paper products. You can use colored pencils or regular pencils as well. And I think in a lot of ways, pencils are a lot more resistant and resilient than pens. I think like less can go wrong with them in a lot of ways. I've noticed that like in a gardening situation, pencil actually lasts longer on plant labels than pens do. So I think pencils are really great. What I don't like about them is that they're so pale that they don't reproduce as well. This right here is done in pencil, and that's actually pretty dark. The pen I use, this is the Space Pen. You can see that it's not water resistant or waterproof because when I closed the book, you can see it transferred from one page to the other, and it created kind of an interesting effect, but that's not what I wanted. So I ended up with, you know, like you can see the fish over there and you can see a mirror image of the fish here. Anyways, I wanted to say that if you join my Patreon right now at the $5 or more level, you will get a copy of my nature journal pages from this trip. I'm going to print out an awesome little book Some of you have maybe seen my Tanzania one before. It's like a really high quality magazine format with glossy, actually I think I used matte pages, but really nice printing, really great color. I can show you one right here. And I'm gonna do a version of that for this Grand Canyon trip and put all of my pages, like all of my sketches, all of my maps, everything like that are gonna go into this printed copy. And if you live in the US and I can ship it to you, I will ship you one for anyone who joins my Patreon. And you can check it out right here at patreon.com/MarleyPiper. It's one of the ways that people support me and help me continue with these educational videos. And you will get a copy. So let me show you mine. This is actually not my Tanzania trip, but you can see here, this is the quality of magazine that this Grand Canyon Nature Journal book will be in. And the printing quality is just really, really good. And so what I'm going to do is all of my Nature Journal pages are going to get printed onto something like this and sent to all of my Patreons that are joining during the month of October at the $5 or more level. So while I'm down there in the nature journaling in the Grand Canyon, join my Patreon and I'll send you a copy of my journal. I'm gonna be gone for 21 days. This is my last live video. I've pre-recorded like 4 or 5 videos. I've been busting my butt making these videos for you so that the whole time I'm gone, I'm not gonna have computer, I'm not gonna have phone, not gonna have electricity, but you're gonna get Nature Journal Show videos every single Wednesday night, just like I always do. So this is my last show while I'm here, and I really appreciate all of you. And check out my Patreon, and these videos are gonna keep coming out every Wednesday night. So hope you have a great time at the rest of the Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference, and I'll be thinking about you while I'm in the Grand Canyon. Bye. Bye, Ivea. Thanks for joining. Bye, Anita. Thanks for joining. Bye. Appreciate all of you. Bye. Bye.